As you're watching this, your brain is firing trillions of electrical signals every second across 86 billion neurons. It's thinking, remembering, fearing, and wondering. But let me ask you a question. Does the brain realize it's dying? The moment the heart stops, the second breath ceases, when the eyes close? Does the brain fall silent immediately, or does it experience one last spectacular show? Some people who have been clinically dead and brought back describe it like this. Everything became crystal clear all at once. Time seemed to stand still, and the most famous one, my life flashed before my eyes. So, is this just a hallucination, or is it the brain's final grand performance before the curtains fall? What you're about to learn might challenge everything you thought you knew about death. Let's start with the first 10 seconds after the heart stops. Death usually begins here. When the heart stops beating, the flow of oxygenated blood to the brain is suddenly cut off. But here's the fascinating part. The brain doesn't die instantly. For the first 10 seconds, it remains active. EEG scans on patients have shown that during this brief window, consciousness slowly becomes blurry, the field of vision narrows, a buzzing sound can occur in the ears, and the sense of balance is lost. This is why people who faint often say, "My vision went dark." It's the first signal that the brain is beginning to run out of precious oxygen. Now, what happens between 30 and 60 seconds? As oxygen levels plummet, the brain switches into full-on survival mode. This is when the brainstem, the most primitive part of our brain, takes over. It triggers a surge of stress hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline. The nervous system frantically sends signals, trying to restart the heart. Consciousness begins to fade away. This is where things get truly remarkable. The brain can actually become more active than when you're fully awake. A groundbreaking 2013 study at the University of Michigan observed the brains of mice whose hearts had stopped. For 30 seconds after death, they detected a burst of gamma waves that were stronger than normal waking levels. And do you know what gamma waves are associated with? Consciousness, memory, and awareness. This suggests that as it's dying, the brain might experience one final, extremely conscious moment. What does this mean? Perhaps at the instant of death, our brain experiences the most intense, vivid awareness of our entire life. But this is just the beginning of the story. From 1 to 3 minutes after the heart stops, consciousness is completely gone. The person no longer responds to anything. At this point, they are clinically declared dead. And this is a big but, the neurons themselves are not yet dead. Brain cells are far more resilient to oxygen deprivation than we once thought. During this phase, the brain shifts into an extreme energy-saving mode. It's like a computer shutting down into safe mode. Non-essential areas shut down first, while the most vital centers use up the very last of their energy reserves, fighting to stay online for as long as possible. This brings us to one of the most enduring mysteries of death, the life flashing before your eyes phenomenon. Thousands of people who have had near-death experiences report common themes. The feeling of passing through a tunnel, seeing a bright light, and reliving their entire life in an instant. They also describe feelings of extreme peace or sometimes intense fear. How does science explain this? One leading theory is the memory surge theory. As oxygen levels drop, brain cells can begin to fire uncontrollably and erratically. This chaotic firing is thought to be particularly intense around the hippocampus, which is the brain's memory center. The result? A flood of memories. Childhood moments, past traumas, key emotional scenes, all of it can be activated at once, creating a rapid, non-linear montage of your existence. This could be the neurological basis for why people say their life flashed before their eyes. But wait, if consciousness is completely shut down by this point, who or what is experiencing these things? It's a question that still puzzles neuroscientists. So, how long does the brain actually live after death? One of the most surprising discoveries in recent years is that the brain doesn't completely die for minutes, or maybe even hours after the heart stops. A mind-blowing experiment at Yale University in 2019 took the brains of pigs that had been dead for 4 hours. They recirculated a special nutrient-rich fluid through them. The results were astonishing. The brain cells began producing energy again. Synaptic activity, the communication between neurons, started back up. The brain tissue essentially ceased to be dead. This single experiment has thrown our very definition of death into question, blurring the line between life and its end. As the process of death continues, the brain cells don't just shut down randomly. They shut down in a coordinated, wave-like fashion. This phenomenon is called spreading depolarization. You can think of it like a final, slow-motion wave washing over the brain. During this process, electrical signals slow to a halt. Information transmission ceases, and consciousness is completely and finally erased. But here's something that might bring comfort. This process is likely painless. The cortical connections in the brain required to perceive pain have already shut down long before this final wave begins. So death isn't the sudden, terrifying darkness we often imagine. Instead, it seems to be a quiet, gradual transition. This leads us to the concept of brain death. Officially, brain death is defined as the irreversible cessation of all brain functions. From this point on, there is no consciousness, no memory, no sense of self. It is the end. But what's crucial to remember is that brain death isn't a single, instantaneous event. It is a process. And every single moment of that process, from the first second of oxygen loss to the final wave of depolarization, remains one of the greatest mysteries in all of neuroscience. So, what will be our final thoughts before we die? There's no way to know for sure. But scientifically, we can make an educated guess. We know the brain prioritizes the strongest emotional memories. The centers responsible for love, fear, and attachment are among the last to shut down. So, in your final moments, it's likely that your loved ones, a powerful emotion, or a profound feeling will come to the forefront of whatever awareness is left. Perhaps that's why so many people's last words are the name of someone they love. Now, consider this. If the brain feels everything one last time before dying, if time slows down, memories come flooding back, and consciousness intensifies into one final brilliant spark, then perhaps death isn't just a complete and total annihilation. Perhaps it is the ultimate moment of awareness. And maybe the most important question isn't just what the brain thinks about, but how the life you lived shapes that final thought. What will your brain remember? Thank you for watching. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the mysteries of science.